No one likes commercials. So go to myfuneralhomestories.com and get collection 1 of My Funeral Home Stories for $8. All that money goes to me, the creator, not some third party. So it will actually help make seasons 4, 5, and 6 come to fruition. Help me help you not have to sit through any more of those fucking commercials. Go to myfuneralhomestories.com and get collection 1 for $8. Enjoy this episode.
The following account is real. Names have been changed to protect the living and the innocent. This journal contains language and content that may not be suitable for all listeners.
In July of 2012, I was 27 years old and almost drank myself to death because of my inability to function as an adult and because of an unacknowledged addiction to alcohol. On that night, when I was able to unclog my airways and take a breath, I remembered a man who drank himself to death on Christmas Eve 6 years earlier, ruining Christmas and his family forever. Remembering that man and how he died immediately after my near-death experience caused a fire to start inside me that changed my life forever. This entry is dedicated to a dead man I only know by the name of Peter. You kind of saved my life, man. My name is Grant, and these are my funeral home stories. Chapter 6, Christmas Eve Asphyxiation. It's Christmas Eve. I'm 21 years old and driving back from the hospital. Don't worry, I'm fine. But the guy in the back of the van is all kinds of fucked up. He was a 55-year-old guy that died 2 days before Christmas in his lazy boy watching TV with his wife. So why is he all kinds of fucked up? Great question. Because he died at home without being under a physician's care, state law requires that an autopsy be performed, regardless of the family's wishes or the outwardly obvious causes of death in certain cases. An autopsy is bad enough, but this fellow was also an organ donor, so his body has been through a lot today. When I get back to the funeral home, I'm greeted by Ned, who's waiting for me in the garage so he can get started embalming the body that I just picked up. Ned knows it's an autopsy and isn't excited. Let me explain. Autopsied bodies are a nightmare to embalm because, generally speaking, medical examiners have a tendency to be a little rough with bodies. They need to be able to explore the body to determine the cause of death, and that can cause damage to the body's circulatory system, making it almost impossible to spread embalming fluid evenly through the body without multiple injections. An ideal embalming is 1 point, and the standard injection is at the carotid artery in the neck. Through good technique and a cooperative injection, a proficient funeral director can have a body embalmed in 90 minutes. This won't be the case tonight. Before we even have the body out of the van, Ned is vocally budgeting his time for the worst and is expecting to do a 6-point injection on this body. A 6-point injection is like the deluxe version of an embalming. It just ensures that the body is actually preserved. There's nothing worse than the stench of someone's poorly preserved arm or leg ruining a funeral or visitation. It's literally the worst. So, knowing this, Ned is planning on a 6-point injection through different parts of the body, bypassing any areas damaged by the autopsy. That's 1 in each arm, 1 in each leg, 1 in the neck, and 1 in the... I guess I don't know where the 6th injection point is. It's probably a good thing I'm in music school. Needless to say, it sounds like a lot of work because it is. Ned is the slowest embalmer we have on staff, so this will take him at least 5 hours. Ned's kind of a strange bird, though. I think he prefers being at the funeral home over spending Christmas Eve with his family, so he may stretch this to 6 or 7 hours. Who knows? I, on the other hand, have reservations for a quiet Christmas Eve dinner with my family at 7. It's 6:15 now and the restaurant's right down the street, so I should be good on time. If I hang out here, I won't have to drive home, and I'll probably get to see something gross or interesting. Probably both. I tell Ned that I'm staying till 6:45. We wheel the man's body into the operating room and close the door behind us. Our operating room is pretty state-of-the-art. All the newest equipment, best chemicals, bright fluorescent lights, and stark white linoleum flooring. I could spend a lot of time nerding out about the ins and outs of our operating room. Like how the embalming machine looks like a mix between a desktop fountain and some souped-up cotton candy machine. Or I could tell you how we have a cool cupboard of wax and stuff to reconstruct a human face. But it's not super important to this story, so I won't tell you either of those things. We stop the stretcher parallel to the embalming table, remove the cover, and slide the man's bagged body onto the giant white table. We unzip the bag and see what we expected. A middle-aged dead guy, eyes closed, and Y incision on his chest and abdomen stitched up loosely. There's a small baseball-style stitch running around the top of his head, almost like someone traced a shallow bowl with a magic marker around the top of his skull. This is where the medical examiner used a circular saw around the skull to remove the brain. The stitches are holding the man's skin tight around the skull cap, connected to skin flaps on the top of his face and scalp. I look down at the large Y incision on the man's chest. It's barely stitched up at all. The sutures are made of a thick white cotton material, but are stained pink and red from passing through the man's flesh. I look at the man's legs, and I'm actually confused by what I see. I slap Ned on the arm and say, "What's this all about?" Ned has seen it all, so he has an answer for everything. He stops what he's doing and looks at the man's legs and says, "Floppy feet. He's got floppy feet." What the fuck are floppy feet? Ned explains something to me next that totally blows my mind. This guy was an organ donor, so obviously they took his heart, lungs, eyes, and everything else that was usable inside the body. But apparently they cut your legs open and take your leg bones below the knee to be harvested or whatever they do with bones. Can you harvest a bone? Is that a stupid question? Anyway, after they take your bones, they can't just send your body to the funeral home with spaghetti legs. So they go to the hardware store and pick up your run-of-the-mill half-inch PVC pipe and stuff it in between the knee and ankle. This gives the legs a little rigidity, but since the pipes aren't connected to the ankle, the feet will flop around in any direction. Hence Ned's clever name, floppy feet. Ned explains to me that they also take skin from donors while rolling the man's body on his side, revealing 2 large rectangular areas of raw, fresh skin. How do they get the skin off this man's back in perfect rectangles? You may not want to know the answer to that. It's a wired cheese slicer. I don't think I need to explain the process. While I look at his reddish flesh, I imagine having my skin thinly sliced off my back. How bad would that hurt? Would it sting like a scrape or hurt like a cut? What does the skin look like after you peel it? It kinda has to look like cheese, right? I mean, aside from the hair and moles. I'm sufficiently grossed out now. It's 6:35 and Ned spent the last several minutes opening up the chest and stomach of the man I brought back earlier. The sutures pull out surprisingly fast once you get them started. Ned places his gloved hands in the now loose incision and pulls up the man's ribs like the roof of an old-school dollhouse. My eyes are immediately drawn to a white trash bag, half filled and tied, sitting in the man's stomach. Ned grabs the bag and walks it over to the sink. This always surprises me. I don't care how many autopsies I see, the bag always gets me. What's in the bag? It's all the organs the medical examiner didn't want or couldn't use. I take a closer look at the bag in the sink. Purple, pink, and red organ meat is smushed up against the bag. I can see so much detail. My eyes recognizes the texture on the bag. I think I use these trash bags at home. The texture keeps the bag from breaking, but also keeps the scent in. I think mine are vanilla scented though. I put my nose down near the sink to smell the trash bag full of guts. Vanilla. I knew it. These are my trash bags. They do a good job keeping smells in. Ned's cell phone rings in his pocket. He takes off a glove, flipping it into the trash before answering the phone. Hello? Okay. Ned grabs a pen and starts writing on a piece of scrap paper on the counter. This is a bad sign. If Ned is writing something down, it's probably a death call. It's 6:39. Fuck. Maybe it's not a death call. Maybe it's just a message from the answering service. I just need to leave in 6 minutes to make it to dinner on time. I listen closely as Ned says a phrase I don't want to hear. So where's the body? Fuck me. It is a death call. Ned hangs up and tells me we've got a police call. We load a clean stretcher into the van and leave the funeral home. It's 6:45. So much for dinner at 7. I call my parents. They understand. We're driving now. I'm in the passenger seat as Ned drives us to the police call, and I'm thinking about the man whose guts we left in the sink. I'm conflicted by autopsies. On one hand, they can determine cause of death, help us find new diseases, and cure existing diseases. On the other hand, they completely destroy a human body in the process. Sure, cosmetically, an autopsy can be covered up pretty easily with the right amount of makeup and wax, but it all just seems so invasive and crude. I don't want that done to me. No way. Who am I kidding? I don't really care. When I die, it's over. The thing that makes me, me, will be gone. So you can throw my body in a wood chipper for all I care. But don't use the cheese slicer on my bag, please? Ned tells me we're going to Red Tree Drive. That's a really nice part of town. Why would we have a police call on that side of town on Christmas Eve? Oh, I bet it's a murder. People do weird shit on Christmas Eve. Ned didn't have much information other than the name and address. Our call's first name was Peter, and he's 42 years old. So young. I wonder what happened to Peter. Jealous ex-lover with a gun in the living room? A bipolar sibling with a knife in the kitchen? Or would it be something less dramatic, but insanely sad? You guessed it. Less dramatic and insanely sad. Ned and I listen to Christmas music quietly for the rest of our trip to the house on Red Tree. We pull up. An officer is sitting in his car waiting for us in the driveway. His lights are off, but exhaust is floating upward out of his exhaust pipe. Ned and I park the van. The officer approaches the window with a warm seasonal greeting. "Merry Christmas, guys." His tone changes when he tells us about the call. Dispatch received a call about an unresponsive man in a shower. Paramedics responded to the scene, but the man, Peter, was already dead. The officer interviewed the parents, who found their son, and was told that they had just finished Christmas Eve dinner and Peter was showering up before going downstairs to watch their favorite family Christmas movie, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. When he didn't come down after 30 minutes, his parents went upstairs to check on him. The door to the bathroom was cracked, and when they walked in, they saw their son laying in a ball on his side in the tub. They tried to wake him up, but he was already gone at this point. I'm trying to imagine what happened, but I'm focused on the digital clock in the van. It's 7:25. I bet my family is finishing up with appetizers and waiting for their main course. I wonder if they ordered cheese bread. That sounds so good. The officer now tells us what the coroner told him happened. Apparently Peter had a lot to drink, so much so that after dinner while in the shower he slipped and fell. His parents were cleaning up the kitchen on the other side of the house, so they probably didn't hear the large thud of their son hitting the tub floor. Once he was on the floor of the tub, he managed to turn himself sideways, lodging his body perpendicularly into the bathtub. This position forced his chin into his chest, restricting airflow to his lungs and blood to his brain, killing him over the course of several minutes via accidental asphyxiation. I'm no longer thinking about food. I'm thinking about my shower and how many times I've slipped and fallen completely sober. I've never thought about dying while taking a shower before. I guess it's a possibility? I laugh to myself thinking about the absurdity of this call. This would be the last time I'd laugh about this situation. The officer leads us up a sidewalk from the driveway to the front door. This is a really nice house. Like, really nice. This isn't the type of place you expect getting called to on Christmas Eve for a police call. My stomach growls. I think about what I would have ordered at the restaurant. A filet? A New York strip? My mouth starts to water just as we're entering the house. The door swings open and I'm greeted by the one sight no funeral director or funeral director's assistant ever wants to see when you know you have a body upstairs. A spiral staircase. I panic for a moment because I've never taken a body down a spiral staircase. But then I look at Ned, and he doesn't look worried at all. Ned puts his hands on his hips and says, "We'll leave the stretcher at the foot of the staircase, bag the body upstairs, and carry him down the spiral staircase the old-fashioned way, by hand." I sigh when I realize how much work this is going to be. I see movement out of the corner of my eye in the living room next to us. It's the parents. Peter's parents are holding each other on a small maroon love seat, which happens to be sitting right next to the Christmas tree. It's a pretty large tree with warm colored lights going all the way up to the vaulted ceiling in the living room. It's probably a 12-footer. It's a good-looking tree. The tree is a distraction, a coping mechanism. I'm choosing to pay attention to the tree so I don't have to face the cold hard sadness of the real world sitting on the love seat right next to the Christmas tree. The wife's head is buried in her husband's chest. I can hear muffled whimpers. The gravity of the situation hits me all at once and takes my breath away. These two people are completely destroyed. Their family and Christmas as they know it is ruined forever. I'm sure if you told them before dinner that their son would be dead in an hour, they would have told you that was an absolute impossibility. But it happened. What are they gonna do? Do they have other kids? I sneakily perch up on my tiptoes to look under the tree without seeming like a weirdo. There are a ton of presents. If they had other kids, they'd be here right now, right? The stretcher makes a sound as we park it next to the staircase. The mother looks over at us with big, sad puppy dog eyes, glossy and red. I nod my head with a sympathetic look, or a look I hope is sympathetic. She plunges her head back into her husband's chest and sobs loudly. Her husband makes eye contact with me. I can't describe what I felt when I looked into his eyes, but in that moment, I imagined what it would be like to find my son in the shower on Christmas Eve. I can't possibly fathom the amount of pain that this man must be in. I give the man the same look I gave his wife and look away before he could respond with any gesture. I don't need any more interactions with this guy. I've looked at him once and I feel awful. Time to get to work. I put on my heavy-duty blue surgical gloves and follow Ned and the officer up the spiral staircase. As soon as we break through to the second floor, you can see Peter's body right next to the staircase's guardrail. Oh wow, he's just right here. Interesting. I look around. The bathroom is right across from the staircase and doesn't appear to be very big. The shower is all I can really see from the hallway. It's an avocado shower bathtub combo with a cream-colored shower curtain half ripped off the rod. Creepy. The main light in the bathroom appears to be off, but the light over the shower is still on. It's a single beam of light in a dark bathroom illuminating the spot where Peter spent his last living moments. Do you think they'll move or just remodel the bathroom? I don't think I'd move. I'd just convert the bathroom into a cedar closet. I can always use more storage. There are boot prints in the carpet from where the paramedics dragged Peter out of the tub and into his current position to try and save his life. I'm imagining being Peter. I'm super drunk and it's time to take a shower. I can't wait to watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with my parents by the tree, so I'm moving a little quicker than I probably should considering the slippery shower and my blood alcohol content. I'm scrubbing and rinsing when I slip on a soapy area of the porcelain tub. Thud. I'm on the ground, but somehow when I fell, my wet body was able to slide itself into a peculiar position. My chin is almost touching my sternum. I can't move. I'm feeling a stretching and burning feeling in my neck and upper back. I can't breathe through my nose or my mouth. No matter how hard I strain, I can't catch a breath. My own body is blocking my windpipe. I can feel my chest tightening and my vision turns white. How am I going to get out of here? I'm dead. Jesus. I hope he hit his head on the way down and was out cold when he died. I can't imagine the horror he must have felt when he realized he was stuck and was ultimately going to die in the fetal position in his shower. My stomach growls. I think about the very expensive Christmas Eve filet I'm not eating right now because of the dead naked guy laying in his parents' house at my feet. I wonder what time it is. I bet I completely missed dinner. Shit. Ned unfolds and puts down a disaster pouch next to Peter. I notice a picture to our right at the top of the staircase. It's a family picture in front of a sunset. It looks like it was taken on vacation. It's just Peter, his mother, and his father. Peter was the only child. This night just keeps bumming me out. I grab Peter's arms and Ned grabs his legs. We shuffle him over the open disaster pouch and place him inside. Once the bag is zipped, the officer says he's going to tell the family that we're going to be leaving with the body and they may want to excuse themselves from seeing that. The officer goes down the spiral staircase and I can hear him faintly talking to Peter's parents. I whisper to Ned, "How are we going to get his body down that staircase?" Ned takes a look at the disaster pouch and then looks at the staircase while holding the small of his back. Ned's had a slew of back issues, so he's always looking for the simplest solution to get a body from point A to point B. A door shuts downstairs. The officer approaches the foot of the staircase. He gives us the okay to move the body. Ned tells me to grab the head end of the pouch and carry it with both hands behind my back toward the staircase. I tell Ned that if I try to carry the body down the staircase like this, I'll fall for sure. He interrupts my criticism and says, "We're not going to carry the body down the staircase. We're going to slide it." What? That's insane. You know what? It's Christmas Eve, I'm starving, and if the director in charge tells me we're sliding a body down a spiral staircase, then fuck it, we're doing it. I start to walk down the steps, facing Ned, against his advice, holding the pouch in front of me and walking backwards. We get the body to the edge of the steps, like a toboggan getting ready to go for a run, and with the slightest amount of downward pressure on my end, the body begins to tip and slide down the stairs, slow and controlled. We literally have no issues. It was 100 times easier than I imagined. Oh my god, we should be doing this all the time. When Ned first suggested sliding the body, I didn't think it would end this well. I figured we'd have at least one more fatality. But to Ned's credit, we did get Peter downstairs quickly without damaging the body, or without his parents seeing any more unpleasantness this Christmas Eve. As we're pushing the stretcher out of the house, I take one last look at the family's living room. The love seat is empty, but the tree is still on. The room is filled with cheerful things, but there isn't anything cheerful here. We load Peter into the van and leave. It's 8:15 and Ned and I are back in the operating room at the funeral home. We got back a while ago, but I didn't want to go to dinner with my parents after what I just experienced. Too many feelings. I need to decompress a bit. I'm staring into the open trunk of the man we started working on before we left. You know, the guy with floppy feet and cheese slices taken out of his back. I can see his spine, but on the inside. This is the first time I've seen this, but I don't really care about any of it because I keep thinking about Peter. It's 4 o'clock on Christmas. I'm off call. My parents, my sister, and my brother-in-law have all gathered in the kitchen for drinks and small hors d'oeuvres. A meat and cheese tray, meatballs, cookies, stuff like that. I've spent the last 2 minutes watching Brent, my brother-in-law, slice block cheese with a wire cheese slicer. Watching the wire cut through the cheese conjures images of our autopsy man's back and what it would feel like slicing my skin. I lose my appetite but pour myself another drink. At Christmas dinner, I can't help but think about Peter's parents. What are they doing for dinner tonight? Did they sleep at all last night? Do you think they're ever going to open the presents under the tree? What am I doing? It's Christmas. I'm with my family eating an amazing meal, and all I can do is think about some guy who drank too much and asphyxiated himself on the night before Christmas, ruining his parents' lives. I don't want to think about Peter and his family, but I can't help it. I want to think about how blessed I am to be alive and to be with my family tonight. But Peter's mom's big puppy dog eyes are etched into my brain. So, that's what I'm thinking about. I finished my 4th drink during dinner and walked to the kitchen to refill it. I grabbed the cheese slicer and cut myself a couple pieces. This thing cuts so easy. I sit back down at the table and rejoin my family's conversation while I sip my cocktail. I wonder how many drinks Peter had before he got in the shower. Was it more than 4? Later that night, I'm drunk and getting ready to shower before bed. I imagine my parents finding me the next morning in the shower balled up like Peter. I decide to take a bath instead. Coda. Like I said at the beginning of this entry, in the summer of 2012, after a long night of binge drinking, I woke up lying on my back choking on vomit in my crummy 1-bedroom apartment. I hadn't even realized I had blacked out until I came to and couldn't breathe. My airways were completely blocked. Thankfully, I was sober enough to stand up and walk over to the kitchen counter, performing a makeshift Heimlich maneuver on myself. After 3 hard pumps of my stomach on the kitchen counter's edge, whatever was blocking my airway came up and I sat on the floor. Heart racing, covered in puke, and reeking of booze, I thought about my life. All the things that led me to that moment. How did I get like this? I thought about my parents and how sad and disappointed they would be in my completely wasted life. I turn the shower on and sit in my tub, fully clothed with my knees tucked into my chest, still and silent, water pouring over me. I think about Peter. I think about the shower he died in. I think about how sad and disappointed his parents must have been in his wasted life. He ruined his family with his drinking. I'm not going to do the same. At that moment, I made a commitment to myself to stop drinking, and it stuck. I haven't had a drop of alcohol since August 1st, 2012, and it has a lot to do with the guy I never met named Peter. Thanks, Peter. My name is Grant, and these are my funeral home stories. Thank you for listening to Season 1 of My Funeral Home Stories. Join me next week for an in-depth post-mortem discussion of our first 6 stories with journalist Rob Hunter. If you enjoy this podcast, please be sure to tell a friend and leave a rating wherever you listen. Need advice or have a question you're too embarrassed to ask a friend? Check out my other podcast, How to Become a Terrible Person, also on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.